Okay, so this is my review on episodes 4, 5, and 6 of The Last of Us TV show. Of course, I loved every single one of them. Episode 5 hit me hard. Like, really, I cried for a while after the episode had ended, actually. Out of those three episodes, episode 5 stood out for me a lot. But I'll get more into it. So, episode 4. I feel like episode 4 was a lot more light-hearted. I mean, there was heavy stuff in it, but I think it was the break that we needed after the complete devastation of episode 3. Pun book. I was so happy to see that joke book. In the beginning, Ellie playing with the gun. She seems more confident with it, and like she's practicing and things like that. She's trying to make herself feel kind of strong and badass with this gun, but later on she finds out that that's not the reality, that guns hurt people. It's maybe like the big badass moment she anticipated wasn't the reality at all. Yeah, the joke book. I love bad jokes. I love cheesy jokes. They're so funny. I find them the funniest probably because they're not funny at all, I think. And I love that the joke book is used as a device to kind of bring Joel and Ellie together. Throughout the episode, Joel kind of finds himself laughing despite himself. He's like, I do not want to laugh at this. It's so dumb. But he can't help himself. Like, we get nice moments between the two of them. And it shows also that he's letting his guard down a bit and he is starting to openly care for Ellie, which I love so much. Because I feel in the game it takes longer. The car scene was perfect. I loved the car scene. I love they had the same song on the radio, the porn book. The porn book, line for line, but I loved it so much. I love how in the shootout when they've crashed into that laundry place, Joel's first instinct is to get Ellie to safety. He says to her, get through that wall and don't come out till I tell you to. And that's his very first instinct, and that's the dad in him coming out again. Where in the game, she's sort of just left to run about you and stuff. I love how Joel thinks of that. Right, I need to get Ellie out the way. I don't want her hurt. I was pretty much spot on with the way the gun would be used, although I think it was pretty obvious how it was going to be used. They've just kind of changed the location of it, and Ellie's reaction to shooting someone and seeing what she's done, and that's very realistic. It's not what she thought it would be, basically. And like she said, it was my first time when she said that to Joel. That broke my heart, and you know that she's talking about Riley, and that's something that we don't get to see in the game. We don't see what happened to Riley. It's kind of left open to assume that Ellie would have had to kill her best friend, which is absolutely awful. And I wonder if that's something they will show in the series, what happens, or like the game, will they just leave you to fill in those blanks? Joel's reaction to Ellie having a gun, I like that he didn't scold her like he does in the game. Like, it causes a lot of tension between the two, but I like how Joel is more measured in his response to it, and he really thinks about it, and he really thinks this is a kid and that would have been terribly traumatic for her. Not like in the game when Joel says,
I'm glad I didn't get my head blown off by a goddamn kid.
In the game it's very much about him in that situation, but here he makes it about her. I love Pedro's portrayal of Joel. It's so different. This Joel is very considerate of other people. He doesn't let his emotions and his anger lead like the game version does, and I really like that about him. I love how they're showing the realism of Joel's age being represented, because that is something that would come into play in a real situation like that. In the game we know that Joel is older, but he's still very agile and very skilled, and it doesn't really seem to hold him back. Not that I noticed in the game, but I like how we're seeing that Joel here is struggling. He's struggling to get up a flight of stairs. He's hearing us off because of all those years shooting guns, he's slowly losing his stamina, and that would really happen, and I like that they've kind of considered that. Melanie Linsky's character, Kathleen, I like that they've added her into the whole Henry Sam scenario. Gives a bit more context as to why they're on the run and why they're kind of being hunted down. That whole storyline with Kathleen and all the hunters also shows what would happen in a world where when you have nothing else to lose and you lose people you love, the extremes you can then go to seek revenge. Like, we have laws in place and whatever to stop bad things happening, but despite Fedra, people could just go nuts. I didn't realise that Perry is played by the voice actor of Tommy. I didn't realise that until I looked it up, and now when I rewatched it, I can't unhear it. Of course it's Tommy. First sign of a bloater, it got me so anxious. It got me like how I feel when I'm playing it, because I'm terrified of the bloaters. My heart rate got so high. I was like, oh no. And that's just hearing it. We didn't even see it in this episode, but we know it's there and we know it's a problem. And Kathleen's priorities all over the place, dude. Like, maybe you should be dealing with that. That bloater is a problem. What I like about that though is she's completely blinkered by her need to find Henry and Sam and to get revenge and to avenge her brother. She's completely blinkered by it, and as we know, that's a huge theme in part 2, and maybe it's a bit of foreshadowing, setting us up for the next series. By far, favourite moment of the episode was the diarrhea joke. And that's not just because I love poop jokes. Like I said earlier, I like that we get to see Joel lighten up a little and we see him laugh, and it just shows their bond is developing, especially in that scene. We're still seeing that playful side of Ellie that I love so much. I love what Bella Ramsey's bringing to Ellie's character, and I loved seeing Henry and Sam at the end. I love that that's the first glimpse you get of Sam with the paint. But overall, I really enjoyed episode 4. It was a bit of a break from all the sadness, and I only cried a little bit, which is good. But then episode 5 ripped out my heart, threw it against the wall, and then stomped on it. Sam being younger and deaf is an interesting twist that I didn't expect. It just adds another obstacle and it makes you worry about him more. It also makes Henry more patient with Sam and kind of more caring and more hands-on, where in the game Henry seems to be just scolding Sam a lot. Henry is more kind of welcoming of Sam being a kid and kind of inviting that playful side of him, like letting him colour and doing the superhero paint. Whereas in the game, like, Henry tells Sam off for wanting a toy and just not letting him play and just on his back constantly. And I like how that's not as prevalent in the episodes. I appreciated how episode 5 kind of rewound back a day or so at the beginning, just to give more context to Sam and Henry's link with the doctor that we see with Kathleen in episode 4. I like how they go back to explain that, and I felt terrible for them when they were waiting on the doctor coming back, and it becomes clear that he's not coming back, and to see it slowly dawn on them, and to see the only person that's been helping them is probably dead, and to see that kind of register. And also I like how honest Henry is with Sam, though he does protect him from visually, like, from seeing horrible things. He'll tell him the truth, and when Sam asks, is he dead, like, Henry didn't hold back and he said yeah. And I like that he was honest with him, and it means that Sam can really count on Henry. And it was really cool seeing the shootout with Joel from a different angle, from Henry's perspective. I don't know what it is about that, but I liked seeing it from a different place, if that makes sense. Looking through someone else's eyes, I like that. Also, when Henry put the paint on Sam's eyes to make him like the superhero, like that he'd drawn on all the walls, I really loved that. It was a good way to make Sam feel a bit stronger and more powerful and more like his big brother. I really appreciated that. I liked it. He has an asshole voice. A favourite line of the whole episode. And I love that Ellie has to keep kind of prodding Joel to be like a normal, polite human being. Like, remember your manners, dude. Ellie and Sam's bond hit a lot harder in this episode, and I think again it's because Sam is younger and is deaf as well. In the game, they're of similar age, and I feel like they kind of relate to each other more, whereas now Ellie takes on a kind of caregiver role, kind of like an older sibling type rather than a friend, and she starts to look out for him more. Love the introduction of Savage Starlight and how that's used as a device to kind of bond Sam and Ellie more, but I like how that ties them together. Endure and survive. Also, Ish in the sewers with all the notes left from Ish and that side story. That's probably one of my favourite side stories in the game, and between both games actually. And I like how they found a way to fit that in, even just a little bit. I like that they put that in there. Made me happy. It was good to hear Henry's side of what happened with Kathleen's brother. There is two sides to every story, obviously. And you could tell that Henry does feel guilt for what he did, but he had to do it. In that moment, Sam was more important. And that kind of emphasises a huge theme in this story is there's not just good and bad in the world, there's a lot of grey area. You kind of have to consider every side and every reason for someone's actions. And that's what I love about this story. Everyone in this is morally grey. They all do bad things and things they shouldn't, but they also do good things and they could still be good people. I like how they're exploring this already with Sam and Henry, and that's a huge theme of part 2 with Abby and Ellie, which I talk about in my part 2 video. If you want to watch that, I speak a lot about having empathy for people and seeing every side. I loved the shootout scene in the cul-de-sac. That is one of the toughest parts of the game. It took me hours to get through that. And I loved how even the simple fact that Joel had to go right around the perimeter, which is what you kind of have to do in the game. I really like that they did that. When he gets up to that room and he has to shoot that guy and he says, please don't do it, please. You can tell he really doesn't want to have to shoot this guy. It's something where Joel of the past probably would have just shot him straight away. Now he's kind of changing and he doesn't really want to do those things anymore. And you see him kind of evolve a little. The fact that Kathleen is willing to kill children is terrifying to me. It makes her more terrifying than the monsters and the clickers in the game. The infected and everything. They will go after you, but there's no consciousness there. This is a human woman making a choice that she doesn't care if a kid dies. And that to me is scary. I'm really happy that they included a bloater. I mean, obviously they had to, they're a huge part of the game, but should have made them your first priority, Kathleen, just saying. The infected don't give a shit about your drama. Joel kicked ass, obviously. I'm glad we didn't get the sequence with Ellie with the rifle, shooting out people for Joel, but we got it here, which is really cool. And this felt so much more chaotic with the sheer volume of infected there and all the fire, and it was so much more chaotic than in the game. Also probably because this part was set at night as well, whereas this scene in the game is set during the day, and we got to see Ellie use her knife. I don't know why I like that so much. I just love seeing her use her knife. The last few scenes I will never recover. I still think about them a lot, and I watched that about 2 weeks ago. Like, when I was rewatching it again to make these notes, I didn't watch that scene again. I couldn't do it because it's a scene I struggle with in the game. I find it hard to even look at it. But yeah, it's the most I've cried, and I cried more than the Bill and Frank episode. And I cried a lot at that. And the fact that they added in that extra layer of Ellie trying to save Sam with her blood, it made it so much more heartbreaking. Like, oh my god, why did you have to do that to us? Like, because you're watching it and like, people that know the game, or just, not even that, just people in general, you know it's not going to work. You're sitting there going, Ellie, no, don't stop. It's not going to work. And she's given him a little bit of hope that it'll be okay, and then we know that he's not going to be okay. Then, because it doesn't work, Ellie is now going to be like, well, what's the point of all this? If my blood's not working, clearly I can't help do anything. What's the point? Also, Henry's suicide as well. Yeah, I have issues watching scenes like that. As I said, the game is hard enough, but to see that with real people being acted out, it was hard to see. And also, when she wrote "I'm sorry" on his board, just the guilt she must feel. Even though it's not her fault that he got infected and she was only trying to help. Even though it hurts so much to watch, I think it's been my favourite so far. And I know there's still more to go, but this episode really stuck out for me. They've all just been so good, man. How are they so good at making this? So I just wanted to add in, I can't believe I didn't say this while I was filming this, but the acting from Henry and Sam, who are played by Lamar Johnson and Kevon Woodward, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I'm so sorry if I'm mucking that up. The acting from these two is just on a completely different level, especially from Sam, who relies a lot on facial expressions and body language. Just unbelievable. And the emotion that they got out of me, like I cried for a long time, as I've said before, after this episode ended, and it's completely down to them and the level of acting. And I hope they win all the awards. I hope they win everything, because they were just so good. Episode 6. Okay, I like and also dislike the bunny reference. Because yeah, it's iconic to the game, but I don't really want to see dead bunnies. Who's this little psycho? I love that. This whole scene with that couple, she was so funny. Joel's panic attacks. I love how they've included this, and I think it's necessary to include this. Of course, stuff like this would affect you mentally. The creators have also confirmed that Joel's panic attacks are related to what happened with Henry and Sam, and how Joel is now terrified he can't protect Ellie, how he thinks he's not enough, and that's subconsciously bringing on these panic attacks. They included Ellie's dreams of becoming an astronaut and going to space, and I hope that means we get the museum scene in season 2. I'm sure we will. I love how we get to see that aspect of Ellie's character that's really quite pivotal in the games. It's a huge part of who she is in the games, and I like how they're adding that in. And I was glad that Ellie opened up to Joel about what happened with Sam. I was kind of worried about her maybe just kind of keeping it from him and not telling him what happened, but I'm kind of glad that she told him, because he was straight away able to reassure her and ease her worries about what they're doing and what if it doesn't work. I prefer the way that Joel and Tommy are reunited in the TV series as opposed to the game. I love the whole scene with them being surrounded by the horses and stuff, and the whole thing with the dog made me feel panicky, because I was with Joel there. I was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, oh no, she's gonna get eaten by a dog. But then she got to play with the dog, which is awesome, and we got to see a dog, so bonus. And Joel and Tommy seeing each other for the first time is more hard hitting here, and you could see just pure relief on Joel's face when he sees him and he sees that he's okay, there's no danger. It was definitely more emotional, and I liked that. And it's the first time we see kind of genuine happiness on Joel's face for a long time, which is really great to see. We love to see Joel happy. Love it. I love how in the last episode that is Ellie kind of prodding Joel to remember his manners, but when they're eating, it's reversed. And Joel is then having to say to Ellie, excuse me, don't be so rude. Favourite part of the episode, is that Dina? Is it Dina? I 100% think it's Dina. It has to be. And the creators they've not confirmed it, but they've also not denied it either. So I think it is. Also loved Ellie's reaction to Dina, when she's like, what? I loved it. Also, Baby Shimmer. I don't know why I'm so attached to that horse. Like, I love Shimmer in the game. I don't know why, because I would never get on a horse. I would just fall straight off probably. I would probably never get on a horse. But this horse in particular, I love Shimmer. I love Gabriel Luna's version of Tommy. And I love that they've added in that he's going to be a dad, which is cool. And you can understand more of why he settled because of that, and why he's kind of reluctant to kind of take Ellie, because he's got another little person to think about. This line from Maria, the only people who could betray us are the ones we trust. Such an interesting line from Maria, and it's a good indication of what's to come in Ellie and Joel's future. Jackson looks amazing, doesn't it? I would love to live there. It just looks so cozy and nice. It's like Stars Hollow. It's the same kind of sense of community, which I love because you don't really have that in my town. Joel's monologue to Tommy about his insecurities, that he's not good enough to help Ellie. I love the delivery of that, and you could see that Joel is scared, and I think it's something he's not maybe used to showing. Incredible acting. Loved it. Also, again, it's another way of showing how much he does care for Ellie and how he does want the best for her. Like, in the game, at that part in the game, it seems like you should try to pass her off because she's a nuisance that he can't be bothered dealing with. Here, it's because he cares for Ellie and he doesn't want to see her, he doesn't want to put her in any more danger, and he feels guilt for being unable to protect her very well so far. The scene with Ellie and Joel, honestly, that is the only scene that's fell a little flat for me. It's such an iconic scene in the game, so I don't really like saying this. I think it's because of one specific moment, and it's when Ellie shoves Joel. It's because I've either seen or heard it or something somewhere that in the game when Ellie shoves Joel, that was an improvisation by Ashley Johnson in the moment, and that was brought on by pure emotion.
It was something that was improvised. It's when she says, everyone has left me, fucking everyone but you.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you.
And she pushes Joel. It's the first time that she's gotten like physical with him and like stands up, and it's on surface it looks like this petulant child, but at the same time you see the strength.
That's something I linked to her, and because they've included it here, and to see Bella Ramsey do that, I felt like it was a lot more mechanical, and it kind of ruined the scene for me, if that makes sense. It was put there purposely rather than just let the scene happen. Yeah, it didn't feel natural to me. It was still good. I'm not saying it was terrible. I did enjoy seeing it and hearing some of the lines, but I kind of wish they did their own version of it, if that makes sense. Favourite line. Another favourite line. I think this might be a standout line for the entire series so far. When Joel is showing Ellie how to shoot a rifle, and he's describing it, hold the trigger like you love it and whatever. And Ellie says, "You gonna shoot this thing or get her pregnant?" I love that. That made me laugh so much, honestly. It was so clever. I feel like a line like that is something that game Ellie wouldn't have said, but is very unique and very typical of Bella Ramsey's Ellie. Why I love Bella's version of Ellie so much, because I feel like she's more witty and sarcastic, and I really love that difference. Also, the university segment, I love that. That's one of my favourite parts of playing the game, is the university section. I loved how they discussed Joel wanting to be a singer. Hopefully that means we get to see him sing Future Days in season 2. I can't wait for that. Joel getting stabbed, probably more realistic than him getting impaled on a pole. Not saying that can't happen, it surely can, but yeah, it would probably be easier to shoot that than have him be impaled. Also, my boyfriend was so mad when he watched it, because when Joel pulled out the knife, my boyfriend was like, "Don't pull that out, you idiot," because obviously you're going to bleed to death then, just leave it in. That angered him a lot. Bella Ramsey's acting in the last scene is amazing. When he falls off the horse and she says to him, I can't do this on my own. It really cements that her fear is being on her own, and she has no choice now but to live her fear. You can really see the panic. And when she starts crying, I did not cry. I'm proud of myself, but that nearly got me when you see the tears. Great episode overall. It's the only one that kind of fell a bit flat for me. That being said, I still absolutely loved it. I've just preferred every other episode more, I think. But yes, still absolutely loved it, and it still has me excited for the next episode, which is going to be Left Behind. I am absolutely buzzing for it. And I might actually play Left Behind again, because I've not actually played the remake of it yet. So I might do that soon. Yeah, I'm so excited to see Riley. I think she's going to be amazing. Only 3 left. And I'm really sad because it's going to go on so quick. Then it's going to be over. Then I don't know what I'll do with my life, really. But yeah, thank you so much for watching if you did. Let me know if you're enjoying the series and what your favourite parts are so far. I'd love to hear about it. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.